Hello, everyone, and welcome to FTT Chats, where we sit down with some of the great and the good of fintech to have a little chat. I'm Liz Lumley, and joining me today is Shakan Shah of Standard Bank. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing, Liz?
Very, very well. I mean, well, comparatively, it's one of those weird times where you're like, I'm stuck at home, but thank knock on wood, myself and my family are well. Are you the same?
Yes, we're all good in adjusting to the environment, I guess.
Yeah.
It's good.
Cool. All right. I'm going to start you off with our first question that we ask everybody. Who are you and what do you do?
Thanks very much, Liz. So I am Sachin Shah. I'm working with Standard Bank in South Africa at the moment, but having shaped sort of retail and corporate banking across Africa for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. As we speak, I'm working with an amazing team to reimagine trade and payments across the Standard Bank Group. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go forward.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So, I mean, we hear quite often about fintechs, focusing on the retail and the personal banking sector. I mean, that seems to be kind of the, what gets a lot of the press, the retail banking fintech entrance. But you really focus on, the corporate side, the global transaction bank. What are some of the unique problems with that side of the bank that you've been seeing?
It's quite interesting, though, because in many instances, large corporates have some of the same challenges as traditional banks do. Mm-hmm. Legacy infrastructure, processes, complex ecosystems, strict governance, regulatory requirements, and a huge number of consumers and competitors driving them to rapidly rethink their strategies. The challenge is that we've all been trying to solve small pockets of these issues, often in isolation, rather than working effectively as partners. And we know at the end of the day that our corporate clients are actually looking for banking, not necessarily a bank. And we therefore need to think differently about how we can help them win and deliver these aspirations that they have.
No, I agree. I mean, probably one of the first times I heard about, collaboration and ecosystems and partnerships was on the transaction banking side. So, and a lot of corporate clients do that they're looking at their relationship with, as you mentioned, banking rather than a bank. So, I mean, how are you approaching this from the Standard Bank side?
Look, I think there's a number of initiatives that are currently in progress around this, but let me talk about the venture in which I'm personally involved with Quantum. Okay. What we're aiming to do is to just apply first principles thinking to trade and payments, which sits at the core of every corporate supply and consumer chain. So, let's think about this from a blank slate, not aim to create a better version of what we already have. What if we were to drop this into a new market? What role do we expect to play in our clients' lives as we do that? Can we enable our clients to connect with us on their terms and when they want? Are we nimble enough to provide solutions in weeks and not years? And can we then partner with fintechs who have cracked it and reimagine this world, aiming to sort of assemble solutions as opposed to try and build it out? So these are some of the principles that we're trying to apply within Standard Bank and also within Quantum to try and change the game.
Mm-hmm. It seems like such a dream to be able to create something from scratch at an incumbent bank instead of building on what's already there. I mean, that kind of leads me to, challenges that banks often face when building these types of products. What are some of the challenges that you guys faced?
So aside from, the usual challenges from a corporate perspective, where we are used to thinking in a certain way and we ourselves have to change our behaviors, unlearn some of what we, have learned over the last 20, 30 years of our careers or whatever else it is, and things that are ingrained within ourselves. I think from an organizational perspective, one of the most interesting challenges was all of these corporates have individuals that interface with us, and they have obviously had a taste of what life is like in the new personal banking apps and 24/7 availability and all the rest of it. They are now demanding that we provide them with similar experiences from a corporate perspective, But of course, now in an environment which is, as an individual, you have your own accountability for your own bank account, whereas as a corporate, you're obviously working at the behest of a board of directors and a management team and what they assign you to do. So that introduces quite a level of complexity, and we have to find a way of bridging the two.
So my next question is a bit of a cheeky question.
Yeah.
I've often worked at startups where there's a lot of flexibility and agile working, but what you don't have is resources. So I'm looking at you building and working with innovation, building new products at an incumbent bank. What are the upsides? What are some of the advantages to building these types of products and systems with the resources of a large incumbent bank?
Look, I think I would sort of point to three key factors that obviously help, and not in any particular order. So first of all, what we've seen, particularly from a Standard Bank perspective, is that we have a very strong and trusted brand across the markets that we operate, and leveraging that enables us to sort of continue maintaining that level of trust with our clients, and especially some of the multinationals that we work with across the continent. The client franchise as well helps. So you already have a strong client base that you've got deep relationships with, and it makes it very easy to approach them to be able to partner with you in initiatives like this and really work hand in hand as you do it. And client data. I wouldn't say that it's something that the banks have cracked, but it does exist, and we have to try and think differently about how we leverage the amount of data that we have. The advantage is it's there, as opposed to having to start afresh and to really dig into those experiences as the clients log on.
So one of my next questions, I think, sorry, wait, this is the perks of working from home, listening to the echoes on everyone's conference call. So my next question, I think this is really relevant for, people at banks trying to work in innovation and building new products, and being accountable for them. How do you, while you're on the quantum project, how did you measure success? How did you know that you were going in the right direction?
Yeah. There's obviously a financial imperative at the end of all of this stuff. I mean, we are all working in an environment that is rapidly changing in terms of the market context and the returns that we're able to provide to shareholders. But the approach that we've taken from an incubation perspective, not just for this program, but for many of the other programs, is to think about it a little bit more strategically, and especially and try and make sure that actually what counts is the client feedback and the client interface. So the approach where you're basically working very closely with the clients and making sure that they are partnering with you in the journey, you're engaging them at very different stages to try and get feedback on the same. The belief is that if you can radically transform and reimagine what we currently do, then even with the same sort of client base that is there, you expect to see an increase in terms of the share of wallet, if you want to call it that, and then sort of go forward as we know it. So, yeah, I mean, I would say the key measure of success is clients and client feedback in this stage.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, it is about what the client needs and requires. I agree. Yeah. So my final question that we also ask everyone, and I always say, I'm hoping this is a temporary question. What's going on globally with the pandemic right at the moment? How are you dealing with that, both in work and also personally?
Look, I must admit, there's no better time to test the resolve of people as a crisis, and I think the current pandemic has certainly proven that. From my perspective, from an organizational perspective as well, the transformation to remote working was near seamless, and I can literally imagine the effort that actually went into enabling this over a very few days when the lockdown was initially announced in South Africa. There's also been a fantastic response in terms of helping clients and making sure that we are proactively helping them with their obligations, including partnering with government and other private sector organizations during this time. And also an amazing team response. I mean, especially for those people that you don't think about who still have to go into the branches or call centers every single day, serving clients during this time and then doing it safely. So I think it's remarkable. I mean, you mentioned temporary earlier. I'm not even sure what the new normal is going to look like.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to go back to the old normal. We're going to go to a new normal eventually. Anyway, Shakan, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me, and keep safe.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Liz.